It's Friday, the 25th of February 2022. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
All right, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Let's get into it, Sean, and a big story for story number 1, a really tragic story. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered a full-scale military invasion of Ukraine, triggering what could be the largest conflict in Europe since World War II.
Yes, Michael. Overnight, Russia launched an airborne assault on some of Ukraine's major cities. After air and missile attacks, Russian troops attacked from Ukraine's northern border with Belarus, across its eastern frontier with Russia, and in the south from Crimea. Tanks and armoured vehicles later rolled into the country from all 3 fronts. Now, according to the Financial Times, roads out of Kyiv were gridlocked with civilians fleeing the capital, while city authorities ordered residents to seek refuge in basements and bomb shelters. Global condemnation of the attacks has been swift, and several countries, including the United Kingdom, have imposed further sanctions. US President Joe Biden said the prayers of the entire world were with the Ukrainian people, while the United Nations chief Antonio Guterres pleaded with Russia to end its aggression. Prime Minister Scott Morrison condemned the attack and was supported by opposition leader Anthony Albanese. Now, business leaders also expressed fears. Commonwealth Bank's Matt Comyn said financial market investors had to expect volatility in coming weeks and months.
And that really leads us into story number 2 today, which is the response from financial markets.
Yes, Brent crude oil prices surged above $100 a barrel for the first time in more than 7 years, Michael. It's very much at the petrol bowser where most Australians will feel the immediate impact of the conflict. Gold prices surged to a 13-month high of $1,921 an ounce. That certainly helped gold miners and their share prices. The US dollar and Japanese yen both appreciated against other currencies. Both are considered safe havens. That meant the Aussie dollar fell back below 72 US cents. Now, on the local market, there was red ink everywhere. The banks tumbled, the miners tumbled, technology and healthcare stocks fell, as did cyclical companies. Even the oil and gas guys, notwithstanding the jump in Brent crude prices, fell as well. By the end of the day, the S&P ASX 200 was down 3% to be back below 7,000 points, erasing all the steady gains of the past 3 weeks. Similarly, in international markets, Wall Street, European markets, they all fell.
Okay, story number 3, Sean. Qantas reported its 4th half-year loss in a row yesterday, and boss Alan Joyce sounded a little bit frustrated.
Yes, not really surprising. It was a half year that began with the end of lockdowns and finished with more restrictions being imposed. That certainly didn't help the national carrier. Mr. Joyce said the lockdowns at the end of last year were the most difficult so far. That's a comment that other CEOs have made during this current earnings season as well. Qantas has now lost more than $6 billion since the start of the pandemic and $22 billion in revenue. Mr. Joyce said bookings were picking up again, particularly in international markets. Now, business travellers haven't yet returned, but he's hoping that the dropping of mask requirements in eastern states will kickstart corporate travel. As always, Alan Joyce was optimistic. He welcomed state premiers' decisions to reopen borders. He said Australia's population was highly vaccinated and the future looked brighter, with international borders finally reopening. Now, all that said, the group still lost money and its share price was hammered yesterday, also in part because of the crisis in the Ukraine.
Okay, story number 4, Sean. We talk a lot about Apple, but today you want to have a look at the impact Apple has had on a couple of locally listed companies.
Yes, a couple of companies nearly dropped 30% yesterday on the back of decisions made by Apple. It just shows the influence of these big tech companies. So Life360 is a US-based location services company. It's listed on the ASX. Its share price tumbled mostly because its competitor, AirTag, which is an Apple product, faces stalking allegations after the AirTag was slipped into pockets or bags without people knowing. This is a little piece of hardware that you can attach to something as small as a key, put on a pet, keep an eye on where they are. Now, apparently, the Apple version of it is being used to stalk people, and as a result, it's under fire, and the fallout means that Life360 share price has tumbled. Another example, Appen, which is the artificial intelligence data services company, its share price was down 28% yesterday because changes to Apple's iOS privacy rules has affected some of Appen's biggest customers. They can't provide the service that they wanted to because of this change in privacy rules. It just shows how important big tech is to so many Australian companies.
All right, final story. Story number 5, Sean. And Airbus plans to use a super jumbo A380 to try and develop really the holy grail of jet engines.
Yes, it will test hydrogen-powered jet engines and A380s as the group prepares to bring a zero-emissions aircraft into service by 2035. Now, Airbus will work with another French company and General Electric in the US to develop an engine that can run on hydrogen. As you put it, Michael, it is the holy grail for airlines to have a hydrogen-powered plane. Planes, of course, are huge carbon emitters. They all have to change. Whatever manufacturer can get there first will have a big competitive advantage.
All right, there you go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Friday, the 25th of February, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, if you want something with a bit more detail, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.